This video is going to be how you make your first 50 professional network connections in Canada. So let's get started. Now, you're probably trying to reach out to a lot of folks in Canada and you try and make a connection request on LinkedIn, but you never get a response. Or maybe you do have someone who accepts your request, but then when you ask them of something, you never hear back from them. So in this video, we're going to be covering some tips and strategies on how you can make those connections effective so you can really get to your first 50 connections quick to get that all-star profile on LinkedIn. I wanted to share a quote from a career coach that I follow, Martin Yates, and something that he said in his book really stood out for me. It makes a lot of sense to me and anyone who's looking for a job. And what he says is that if you're looking for a job, the way to shorten the time in your job search is to speak to the people who have the power and authority to hire you as much as possible and as frequently as possible. Doesn't that make a whole lot more sense than simply just throwing your resume to an online job application and waiting for a response? Because ultimately, the decision is made by a human being, not by a computer. And this is why connecting with professionals and dealing with them on a one-to-one basis directly is important if you want to find your next job and reach your goals. So LinkedIn is going to be your go-to tool. And why is LinkedIn important for a job seeker in Canada? Well, here's some statistics to help you see that. You're seeing the top 5 countries that have the biggest LinkedIn user base. Here's another statistic that shows that hiring managers who have the power and authority to hire you, their demographic age really shows that they're using LinkedIn quite a lot. And finally, probably the most important one, is that the statistic shows that 87% of recruiters actually view your LinkedIn profile before deciding to give you a call. So that in itself is an important aspect for you to consider having that strong LinkedIn profile. So what can your network in Canada do for you? For one, you can get those informational interviews that you need. It's through those interviews you'll be able to get industry advice about the job that you want and the industry that you're targeting. You can also use them as mentors. Mentoring is a huge culture out here in Canada. A lot of professionals are willing and voluntarily giving up their time and effort to help others get more knowledge in the industry. And finally, the big one is that job referrals will come a lot more easier to you. As you know, it's all about who you know over what you know. And if someone refers you to a job, the statistics prove that you have a much higher chance of getting that job. Before we get into it, I wanted to talk about a couple of hard-hitting truths about networking. First of all, you're connecting with a total stranger. They don't know you. When they see your connection request pop up on their screen, they're wondering what it is that you want. They've never heard from you before, and they don't owe you anything. And if you're asking something off of them, it turns them off. They're busy people, and depending on who you're connecting with, they're probably getting inundated with a lot of connection requests every day. So what is it about you that's going to stand out for them to accept that request? Considering all of these things, you got to understand that if they accept your connection request, they're essentially saying that I'm opening up myself for you to communicate with me one-on-one. So it's all about how you can convince them to get to this mindset, to get them to agree to open up communications with you. I wanted to share a couple of instances of how people have connected with me in the past. And I'm going to let you just be the judge of which sets of these people you think that I was more open to connect with. Here you have someone who asked me for a huge favor when he connected with me for the first time. He asked me for recruitment knowledge in Canada. There's someone else who for the first time when connected with me asked me for advice regarding a position of the company that I currently work with. There's another person who just asked for general job hunting advice in Canada. And then there was someone who wanted to get a more in-depth look on how marketing and communications are done in Canada. Again, asking me for advice on how I can help him out with that. Then you have another set of people, this person who came across a Quora article that I wrote and complimented me on it. We had another person who, after I connected, gave me a recommendation. And this person shared an article with me about cloud computing. Now, between these two sets of people, who do you think that I was most likely open to connecting with? As you can imagine, it's the people on the right. Folks who connected with me, never asked for anything, but gave me something instead. And this is the key difference of how you engage and build those relationships with your network connections and increase the response rate you get from them. We're going to talk about what those people did differently some more here. One word that's going to change your networking life forever is the word reciprocate. If there's one thing that you should take away from this video, is to understand the power of reciprocity. And that is essentially means to give and to take. As human beings, we give and take all the time. We help people out a lot. Whenever you give somebody a gift, they feel obliged to give you something back. Whenever you invite someone for a party, they feel obliged to invite you to theirs in return. We help each other out a lot every single day of our lives, and people feel the need to give back when they've received. It's a natural way that human beings interact with each other. And this is what you should be taking with you when you connect with someone on your network as well. Don't selfishly keep asking for things, especially if it's the first engagement with them. Try and give them something first and keep giving. Eventually, when you do need something from them, they will be a lot more open to giving something back to you in return. So, a couple of do's and don'ts when you connect with your first 50 connections in Canada. Number one, don't ask for favors, okay? Don't ask for job referrals or any positions available in their company. Once again, they're total strangers to you, and they don't know you and you don't know them. They will not put their reputation out on the line and refer you to their HR managers because they don't know you professionally. They don't know the quality of your work. Why would they want to do that? And also, when you connect with them, provide some context as to why you're connecting. Show them that you've done some kind of research about them. Look through their LinkedIn profiles. See if you can find a match. Research about their company. Research about the industry, and give them something during the connection so that they would be more open to connecting with you and they know why you're connecting as well. And finally, if you do make that connection, don't just connect and disappear and so they never hear from you again until you need something. Isn't it annoying when you have that distant relative or a friend who you never hear from, and it's only when they need something they reach out to you? Isn't that annoying? So imagine how that would be if that's how you're treating your professional network as well. So don't do that. What you should be doing is research before connecting, as we had mentioned. It shows the other person that you care enough to do some work before reaching out to them. Share articles with them. That's where your research can be put into practice. In Canada, learning is a big culture out here, and people appreciate when you share knowledge with them. Provide your own feedback. Don't just, open up an article and click forward. Make sure you've read the article, of course, and provide your feedback and ask them for their opinion as well. And where applicable, give them recommendations if you can, or at the very least, give them some endorsements on skills they have. And finally, stay in touch. I know it's not easy, but after all, there's a reason they call it networking, because there's a lot of work into it. So figure out a way of how you can set some time aside every day to connect and engage with your network. So when you're reaching out to them, what a lot of people do, I would say at least 70 to 80% of people who reach out to me do this. They just hit connect and send that connection request across. And when I see it on my phone, I have no idea who this person is and I have no idea why they're connecting to me. What you need to do instead is start personalizing right from the beginning. If you're connecting with someone on your desktop, click the Add Note button so that you can personalize the connection and use a personal note when you make that connection. If you're connecting from your mobile device, it's a little bit more tricky. You don't want to hit the connect button right away because that will instantly send a connection request across. What you want to do is hit the little 3-dot button, and that will open up a menu where you can hit personalize invite to add that note. You will find, I can guarantee you, that when you add a personal note in your connection, stating explicitly why you want to connect, you will find a much higher response rate from the people you're trying to connect with. Now, you might be thinking that the people that I want to connect with who have the power and authority to hire me, they're vice presidents, directors, C-level executives. They're really busy and I shouldn't be bothering them. Well, what you're seeing on the screen right now is how I personally connected with the CIO of the city of Toronto. He accepted my connection request after I saw him speaking at a conference, and in my connection request, I mentioned a couple of quotes that I liked, and he connected with me right away. And to foster that relationship, you're seeing that I sent him a YouTube video that I watched, which had the latest technology going on in Canada in 2016. And since he's the CIO of the city of Toronto, I made a safe assumption that he cares about the city and he's passionate about it. So I found an article about how Toronto is improving as a smart city, and I shared it with him and gave him my opinion as well. This is how you build a relationship with anyone in Canada. It doesn't matter who they are. If you have the right approach, you can connect and contact anybody. And here's an ironic benefit of doing that. When you connect with people higher up in the organization, and when you develop a strong relationship with them, eventually when you do ask for something, say there's an opportunity in an organization and you want their referral, and what they will do is they will forward it to the hiring manager of that position. And then guess what? All of a sudden, that hiring manager has received an instruction from the big boss, and they will take it a lot more seriously. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that something that is worth connecting to the person for? So you have nothing to lose by trying to connect and building the relationships with people higher up in the organization. On that note, I just wanted to point out a specific point on Canadian culture, because this happens a lot. Don't refer to people as sir or ma'am when you're connecting to them in Canada. I know it's probably in your culture, in your home country, to do that, but out here in Canada, you can refer to people by their first names. It makes it a lot more comfortable for them to engage with you when you do that. So as always, it's important to take action now if you want to see yourself excel and reach your goals in Canada. What you can do today is set aside 15 minutes per day at least to engage with your network. It's up to you to decide when you find that 15 minutes. You could find that time when you're waiting in line at Starbucks, or you could find that time when you're in the bathroom. It doesn't matter. As long as you spend some time engaging with your network, so that when you finally need something from them, they will more likely respond to you. Secondly, always remember to use the Add Note feature and personalize your invite to them. You will find that making your first 50 connections will happen a whole lot faster. And finally, the key one is remember the do's and don'ts, and refer back into the video if you want a refresher. But the key point here is never ask your network for anything, especially in the initial stages of your relationship. Always keep giving unconditionally. And eventually you will find that when the time comes that you need something from them, they will more likely cater to your request. So in this video, we've covered how you can successfully make your first 50 professional network connections in Canada, and hopefully you will go well beyond 50 with the right approach that we've discussed over here. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about that big stigma and that negative stereotype that Canada has on Canadian experience. We're going to talk about some hard-hitting truths behind it and how you can overcome it as well. So until the next video, bye for now.